Jail time after pleading guilty to the charges against him.
At least not yet. Ed Linderman is live downtown with more on what we can expect from here on out. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, David, Alexis, everybody. As promised when I visited with you live at 6 o'clock, and we're following up on the events of yesterday and Bob Filner's guilty plea. Dan Eaton joins us now. He's an attorney and ethics expert who teaches a business ethics course at San Diego State University. Dan, good morning.
Good morning, Ed.
All right, let's talk about the ethics of this before we get into the plea deal itself. You teach a business ethics course at San Diego State.
From an ethics standpoint, Ed, this is about the abuse of power. Now, the former mayor has admitted that he's engaged in these behaviors. And the received wisdom, Ed, is that sexual harassment is fundamentally about power. And the former mayor abused power. From an ethical standpoint, that's very troubling.
Now, you get into, and it was interesting, your conversation with me, because I think everybody has a cringe when the obituary is written. You know, Bob Filner, comma. And the mindset of people needs to be, what is my legacy here? Would that have helped if he had sort of formulated in his mind how he wanted to be remembered?
Look, Ed, Stephen Covey, who wrote the famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, had as his second habit begin with the end in mind. And what he meant by that is think about what your funeral experience should be. And if you think about what your obituary should say, it may affect your conduct going forward. The fact is, these behaviors that Mr. Filner has admitted to engaging in are going to be the lead paragraph of his obituary. And had he thought about that, would he have acted differently? What would his role models have had to say about the kind of behavior in which he engaged?
All right, a cautionary tale for others.
For everyone, as a matter of fact. And the interesting issue is whether this is going to be considered ultimately an issue of public corruption, or whether these kinds of charges are going to be brought where sexual harassment is alleged even in the private workforce. Because as I said, sexual harassment is primarily, not exclusively, about the abuse of power. And the question is, how much more so is that true where the person who did engage in the behavior, we're no longer talking about alleged anymore, holds public power himself, as Mayor Filner did.
All right, but when you say that someone needs to consider those sorts of things, Bob Filner has also agreed to continue to seek mental health treatment for this. So, you know, that the latter bespeaks to what was going on in the first place. I need treatment.
And that's correct. And the question is whether that treatment is ultimately going to be effective. The fact is, Ed, that the old saw that your mother told you long, long ago about keeping your hands to yourself might have served Mayor Filner very well in this instance, from an ethical standpoint, from a legal standpoint. And we're not done legally yet, and the ethical issues go on and on and on and will continue until that obituary is written.
All right, briefly here. He pleads guilty. What does this mean to these civil cases, these women now coming forward with suits against the city?
It's not entirely clear, and it's not entirely clear there will be additional lawsuits. A lot of these charges were removed because the time limit had expired, of course. But the question is, to what extent will this plea deal be allowed in the civil cases? We don't know the answer to that question, but we are going to have to stay tuned.
Okay. All right. We've been talking about that for a long time. Stay tuned. Thank you.
We will.
All right. All right. Again, we will be following up on the developments from yesterday all morning long. In about a half an hour, we're going to be talking live to City Attorney Jan Goldsmith. Later on in the morning, various defense attorneys, including former District Attorney Paul Finks. We are live downtown, following up on the major event of yesterday. Back to you guys in the studio.
Either way, I think most people are glad that we are a step closer to putting this whole thing behind us, Ed.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. Let's get